A family grows and a family changes, but in the end, it's family. And it stays together, and that's why I think Beretta USA is a family.
As a young man, Mr. Beretta always wanted to have a manufacturing facility in the United States. He worked tirelessly and met much resistance, but never lost hope.
Beh, è chiaro che io personalmente non avevo i minimi dubbi che per me l'America era una realtà, per me l'America era una cosa che il futuro lo vedevo qua. Però devo anche dire che io sono stato molto fortunato perché ho avuto dei collaboratori molto bravi che mi aiutavano e insieme abbiamo lavorato. La storia è un po' lunga chiaramente perché è iniziata negli anni 70, poi nel frattempo ci è venuta la possibilità di acquistare questa azienda, piccola azienda, FI, dove siamo locati oggi, e quindi abbiamo acquistato questa azienda, anche perché nel frattempo è successo che una nuova legge americana proibiva l'importazione delle pistole piccole. E allora abbiamo approfittato, abbiamo detto ok, trasferiamo la produzione del Brasile a Accokick e iniziamo l'attività lì. E abbiamo fondato Bursa Beretta USA.
His dream finally came true when in 1977 he acquired FI Industries, Inc. From 1977 to 1979, 3 general managers were sent over from Italy. In the summer of 1979, Mr. Robert Bonaventure became general manager.
The whole object at that point in 1979 was try to make these small pistols because it was against the law to import them. So about January of 1980, we put in motion getting those guns down here.
I remember that when I first started at Beretta USA, Mr. Bonaventure was our general manager, and he was very manufacturing focused. You know, at the time, our goal was to make the M9 pistol and to manufacture it here and meet all our strict Army schedule requirements.
So after Beretta purchased the existing facility, FI Industries, a lot of the machines were scrapped. Whatever could be salvaged was salvaged. And then they started bringing in some of the machines from Italy.
So with Carlos, we managed to get the equipment going. He did the communicating with the factory. I did the communicating with the sources to get the parts in there. And first we got the production 300 a month, then maybe 500 or 600 a month. I was talking to Ugo on the phone. He said, make more. So we finally got up to about 2,000. He said, make more. I finally hit 5,000 a month. He says, okay, you can stop.
The building was much smaller, obviously. I believe there was probably 50 people when I started.
And being a small company starting up, everybody had multiple responsibilities.
Carlos, when I started, was the purchasing department. He was some human resource for manufacturing, and he worked in manufacturing too. So he was a multi-tasked person.
I initially came to Beretta USA July 21st, 1981. I joined the company basically to answer the 800 line that came in the door. That progressed into me doing switchboard full-time, still doing, you know, the catalog services, and starting to interact with the engineering department. From there, I've moved around the company an awful lot.
He was here frequently, and he was a very big help because he would keep asking me, is there something you want me to do? He would call me from Italy and say that. And I would say, well, if you can come over, it would be very helpful. And he would be here. The relationship with Ugo was very close. He was here at least every 2 months.
What I saw actually directly with Mr. Beretta is that when we were facing really difficult challenges, like the start of military production, he was very supportive. And I know he's always supportive, but I mean, he wouldn't be too tough on the staff because he knew that we already were focused and consumed with trying to succeed. So I think he saw his role as being that as supportive. What do you need? What can we help you with?
Well, when Beretta was a small company, it was really, you felt a sense of camaraderie with everybody because everybody knew each other.
And our lives kind of intermingle where we become not only a family at home, but a family here as well. So we're always striving to try and do the best we can so that Beretta ends up being the best that it can.
That I felt that I owed it to the family, to the Beretta family, because they were very good to me, they treated me very well, and I always felt that it was my responsibility to do the best I could to make them look good. So he was always a mentor always because he pushed me to always do better and do things the right way.
One of the attractive things about working at Beretta USA is that you get to work directly with Mr. Beretta. And to me, it's like if I was working in the Ford Motor Company, I'm literally working with and talking to on a daily basis Henry Ford.
And we just all got along. Everybody got along well. It was a nice place to come to work. I enjoyed working.
It was incredible that the Beretta family basically stopped everything in Gardone to focus on the M9.
When we got the M9 contract and we're working on the proposal, Marie Catterton was his assistant and did the typing of the proposal for the M9. And that's a gigantic book. It's like 600 pages.
We had gone through a couple of contract managers that just plain didn't know what they were doing. And then we hired Jeff Ray. And Jeff Ray then was a young guy just out of college, very smart. Knew a lot about contracting right away because he read everything that had to be read and gone through everything.
I started working for Beretta in March of 1980.
We went through a lot of people. The challenges of the military being so strict on us because they felt they had to be because of the challenges of certain companies not wanting, you know, Beretta as a foreign company to have been awarded the contract.
I had a call from my wife. The congressman here had called for me, and I was at the show, so he told my wife, Beretta won the contract. So she called me, but before she got a hold of me, she got a hold of Ugo. So Ugo was the first one to know that we won the contract. Ah, he was jubilant. You couldn't hold him down. It was a lot of fun.
And boy, did we celebrate. Mr. Beretta thought that was the time to celebrate. We had shrimp like you never saw shrimp.
I mean, it was a big deal for you to have a government contract of that size.
If I remember well, it was the January of 1985 when the uproar of the victory in USA of the pistol Model 92 burst into the R&D of Beretta.
When I first walked in here, we're talking about a building that had been used for the last 15 to 20 years prior to it with FI Industry and Bourbon Corporation as just simply a manufacturing and importation house. Our production floor was very small.
We had about 90 to 120 people at that time prior to getting the contract, but we had to ramp up to about 550 people, and we had to put in place all the departments. The government required quite a few things as far as how you do your purchasing, how you do the human resources, a lot of federal rules and regulations and so forth had to be followed.
Well, some of the challenges that we experienced when we started here is basically the same challenge that we have today, was getting people that had any experience whatsoever. I mean, this is not a manufacturing area, as we all know. So we were hiring basically tobacco farmers at the time.
And what was neat about Beretta, they started out with no skills in the factory. And some of them went up all the way to supervisors, making really good money. So this was an opportunity for this area, for the people that didn't have any skills, to get them.
Apprezzato da tutti in quanto al venerdì preferivano guardare quanto era l'ammontare netto sul loro paycheck. Il risultato era che il lunedì mattina, spesso e volentieri, quando arrivavamo in azienda, ci trovavamo con 40-50 persone in meno e quindi riprendere l'addestramento. Quindi è stata una scrematura continua.
La gente il venerdì sera prendeva lo stipendio e poi se ne andava e diceva ciao, ciao, ci vediamo, e non tornavano più. L'operaio americano il venerdì sera prendeva la paga e poi cambiava stabilimento.
Aveva bisogno di circa 150-200 persone per far girare tutte le macchine, montaggi, prove sparo, eccetera, eccetera. So che il mattino c'era la coda di chi voleva entrare, però chi entrava il mattino in una settimana il 30%, il 40% non si vedeva più.
Remember, we ran out of parking spaces. We had to actually double park where people, I had to know that it was your car behind mine. So when I wanted to leave, I could say, Matteo, can you move your car because I'm ready to go. I mean, it was crowded.
So yeah, there were definitely some funny scenes where people had to improvise, and desks appeared in the middle of hallways and up on mezzanines. And our office, I remember our first engineering office was actually in the main hallway of Beretta USA. So as you would come in, you would basically walk through engineering to get to the other office areas of Beretta.
In the factory, I mean, the building just, I don't know, tripled in size, you know. We were running out of space in the offices. Sales and accounting were in the same space, but divided by file cabinets.
As the M9 started, we had to expand. We needed new warehousing, we needed new shipping, we needed new manufacturing floors. So we went through all those bump and grinds of, you know, walking through muds to get from your car to the front door, and all of a sudden, we've got name badges. You know, when I first started here, you didn't have a name badge.
We were a fairly small marketing and sales and service department. We had, I'd say, probably 17 people. As the U.S. market grew in size, additional, more responsibilities were put on Beretta USA.
And of course, when it blew up, there was so many people, you had no idea who people were.
Well, when I first started at Beretta, my first impression was just a very dynamic company, because we were, at the time, we were setting up all the machines from Beretta, Italy, to basically replicate the M9 manufacturing process exactly as possible here in the United States. So there were a lot of people, a lot of machines moving, a lot of things to learn very quickly.
When it was announced that we had won the contract, it was announced during the SHOT Show, and I was not at the SHOT Show. And to be honest with you, my reaction, I think, was different than everybody else's. Everybody was happy. Like I said, I was not at the SHOT Show, but everybody was celebrating, having a good time. And I was sitting in my office thinking, oh my God, because I knew the work that laid ahead of us. Very difficult. But we had a lot of people. We had a big focus. We had Mr. Ugo Gusali Beretta behind us all the way, that pushed everybody to work extremely hard to accomplish things.
It was a very, I would say, collegial workplace. There was a sense of mission, and by and large, we tried to create an atmosphere of let's all cooperate and graduate.
Un lavoro che è stato notevole per alcuni anni. Anche Gardone è stato molto impegnato, perché è chiaro che i tecnici erano tutti italiani, erano le squadre italiane che venivano qui.
Le emozioni sono state tante, sono state variegate, non saprei fare cosa di più mi ha lasciato. Mi ha lasciato sicuramente un'esperienza nel rapporto con le persone. Mi ha lasciato che io, lo stereotipo dell'americano per me era quello che americano non capiva niente, buono, mamma pasta, mamma mia, roba del genere, e invece ho conosciuto delle persone veramente, veramente. E poi proprio il modo di pensare degli americani ha completato il mio di italiano, sono diventato, è brutto dire, italo-americano nel modo di pensare, ecco.
Gli anni del contratto M9 per me sono stati molto, molto importanti. Allora, ero ancora giovane, quindi sono stati momenti di crescita, ovviamente, di crescita dal punto di vista tecnico. Si sono conosciute molte cose.
But Mr. Beretta was involved directly and personally in those issues as well. He would sit there with us and say, okay, what are we going to do about this? How are we going to describe this? And we go through it. Some of this was new to him. He'd done government contracts around the world, but the U.S. aspects and complexities were kind of new to him.
Tutta questa trattativa che ho fatto con l'Army sicuramente mi ha insegnato molto, quindi anche per il resto di tutte le varie trattative che ho fatto nel mondo con i vari militari, sicuramente mi è servita perché sono più tosti qui, quindi è chiaro che quando vado negli altri paesi ero già ben preparato, ben attrezzato di affrontare la mentalità militare, che è una mentalità che non è facile da capire.
We started to see an evolution in the role of Beretta USA right around the contract award.
It was a small company. It had big projects, but it was a small company. And so, I mentioned that we had like 120 people when I started. And when we got the M9 contract, that changed dramatically. We went up to 500 employees by 1987, 88.
But when we got the contract for the military, that's when it grew. When I started in sales, there were 4 people.
It was just fun. People were fun.
We just had a great family atmosphere. And everybody that worked here knew everybody.
And as far as socializing, I mean, we used to have softball games, and we would make it a real big deal, like accounting versus the sales department.
We just played each other, and it was just a lot of fun. Again, a family affair.
Get a couple buses out here, leave work at 6 o'clock in the evening after work, get home 6 a.m. on a Saturday morning because we went to Atlantic City or something. Everybody worked well together. It was just good combinations.
Probably around 96, 97 was felt that we should have our own sales representatives working for the company.
Well, marketing has changed a great deal. Basically, in the 80s and the 90s, you were talking about traditional marketing. You were talking about print advertising.
And so where you saw that in the company is the marketing. If you compare the sales and marketing materials from 1986 to a decade later, there's a dramatic improvement.
One of our sales representatives, a fellow by the name of Steve Forbes, came to me and he said, Bruce Willis really likes Beretta. And I said, well, that's great. Forbes calls me up and he says, Rafael, you're going to be getting a picture of Bruce Willis with that pistol. You look at what product placement is now. We were able to, be in a sense pioneers in that, and it cost us 192 FS at the time.
Of course, today we have social media, we have our web-based marketing. Things that didn't exist 30 years ago at Beretta USA are all needs and realities of today's market. So from a one-person and one-agency marketing group, we now have many people at Beretta working on all these different aspects, and each one, specialized in certain areas. Very early on, we were basically just proposing an Italian product solution to the U.S. market. Over these 30 years, though, we've grown considerably, where now it's the U.S. market demands that are driving the development of the product.
Well, Ugo's idea was, and he had the idea to have a store here in the United States. And first we tried, his idea was, let's give it a try. We'll rent some space in Alexandria, Virginia, which they did. We did. And we had a store on Washington Street for about 5 years. And they were also trying to introduce the clothing line at that time.
Beretta Italy was starting the Beretta Sport line. And the idea was to sell the Beretta Sport line here in the United States, and also to increase the sale of custom grade shotguns.
Not surprisingly, like a lot of companies, we had t-shirts, we had caps and things like that. And I think this was partly due to Mr. Beretta, partly due to, and increasingly due to Franco over the years. We started to really spend energy and imagination and resources in developing our clothing and accessories line.
Mr. Ugo Busali Beretta came up with the idea of starting a Beretta gallery, establishing a retail point. We basically had no knowledge, so it was learn as you go. But eventually, after we had a certain amount of experience, Mr. Busali Beretta said, I want to go for the big time. And that was when the search for a Beretta gallery location in New York started. Experience in running a retail store was basically zero.
A friend of Ugo's told him that this is the time for you to buy a building in New York City, and it was. The property values were very low at that time.
And one of the things that Mr. Ugo Busali Beretta was very, very much aware of and very conscientious of was the need to expand the sale of our long guns, our shotguns.
But again, it was the guns that brought people in. You could walk down Madison Avenue and see all these big name designer labels and so forth, empty. 2 or 3 good looking girls inside standing there. But Beretta would be full of people. Peter Horn, first of all, he loved big game shooting. He knows everything there is to know. He was a professional hunter himself in Africa for a while.
And then after that, the Berettas started opening stores in Paris, London, Milan, other locations. But the U.S. operation was kind of where things started.
Companies in the world broke ground in Middle Tennessee today. Italian gunmaker Beretta is moving all of its U.S. manufacturing operations to Sumner County.
Well, when I heard that the company was moving to Gallatin, I was very sad, because immediately I knew that I would not be going to Gallatin. That would probably be the end of my career with Beretta.
Difficile per questa importante idea che abbiamo preso 2 anni fa di fare questa fabbrica in un posto diverso. È stata una decisione molto difficile, però io penso che sia stata una decisione buona.
The bitter part was that what triggered us moving to Tennessee were political challenges in Maryland and a sometimes hostile to firearm industry companies, state government. And even like county government and some local people. We were not embraced in Maryland in the same way we have been in Tennessee.
As a matter of fact, I thought it was a very good idea. And after being down there last year and seeing the reception that we got from the local people and the congressional people and so forth, that part is really good. It's entirely different than the impression I had when I came here in 1979. When the first thing that had happened just before I got here, the Washington Post ran a big article on Saturday night specials and how Beretta's coming here to make them.
It's always been a comfort to know, the machines are running, people are here, everything's a go, and now there's nothing back there. It's sad.
What you've known for 35 years is now gone, and it's not going to come back again. I grew up with these people, the ones that I'm talking about that were here for 20-some years. We've had marriages, we've had births, we've had deaths, and these were all things that we shared, as a family.
As a person that's been here for 30 years, seeing an empty factory now is difficult. You're used to going back there and seeing a lot of machines working, running, a lot of people there, and now at this particular moment, we have an empty factory.
Però nel vedere quello che era stato fatto a Akukik, e vedere una cosa crescere, perché quando siamo andati noi c'era mezza fabbrica e mezzo prato, siamo venuti via che c'era la fabbrica intera, e vederla sparire e vuotare da lì, cioè dire far crescere una cosa e farla essere partecipi per farla sparire, ecco, diciamo tra virgolette, anche se non in certi termini, mi ha lasciato a pensare,
I've been to the Gallatin facility. I was very proud to be able to be part of the opening ceremonies. And I was very proud of that, but I was very proud of what we had accomplished here.
But since I also worked in Gallatin for almost a year, I realized that, you know, that's the next step in the Beretta evolution in the U.S.
It's a new phase in the company. I'm happy for Tennessee. I hope that we do well there, you know, just like we did here.
So the Gallatin facility is beautiful. It's incredible. You drive over a hill and you have this dramatic building that's kind of popping up out of the middle of apparently nowhere. And it really makes a statement. This is Beretta USA.
In a way, I saw it as it's an opportunity for Beretta that, okay, again, they can start something new, something fresh off the ground.
Well, what happened with our Accokeek facility is kind of bittersweet. The sweet part is that in Gallatin, we got to build the building itself from scratch, from the beginning, design it exactly the way we wanted it to be.
And I think that the family has looked into the 21st century and beyond by putting Gallatin into place and taking us from that small beginning that we had with the few me-valve machines to the robotics, that this plant was just not big enough to do.
Beretta USA in the future looks like a company that never stops growing, never stops improving itself.
In the future, I think Beretta's just going to continue to grow, continue to have a great brand. I see Beretta getting into more and more diverse businesses.
People here respect each other and they respect what we're all trying to accomplish. And I see, like a basketball team that gets a rebound, everybody turns immediately toward the goal and we all head in the same direction. And I think Beretta USA has been very good at that. And I attribute that to the leadership of Mr. Beretta as well and the Beretta family.
A far quadrare i conti, quindi il mio messaggio è massimo impegno sia da una parte che dall'altra, produttivo e commerciale. Io spero e mi auguro e credo, devo dire, che I miei amici ce la fanno. Perché...
So I've had people ask me, like, how can you work for one company? How can you do one job for 30 plus years? And I tell them quickly, it's never been just one job. It's been one company.
That longevity, because I get questioned about that longevity an awful lot, it's not that I haven't wanted to spread my wings and perhaps pursue other endeavors. It's been that I've been given the opportunity to spread my wings and change within the company.
So it's been a career, and I wouldn't even say a job, because it's really been a career where I've got to do a lot of different things.
I like to say to everybody who says, you must get bored, I reinvent myself at least 3 times, every 3 years.
I think I will always carry with me that if you work hard, you can accomplish some very difficult things. I think I'll always carry that with me.
I personally have always seen Mr. Gusali as being the head of this family. And I know, again, it might be a very naive thing to say, but I see Beretta as a family. We spend so many hours here, and we put a lot of time and effort away from our own families, that this has become a family, and the family is the pinnacle.
Mr. Beretta treats everybody like family. He made you feel like you were part of his family, and he appreciated everything you did.
The main thing I give credit to in this company is the desire and the strict discipline Hugo had on making it go. It was always ready to make it go.
Noi cerchiamo nel nostro modo di fare, nel modo con i nostri collaboratori di avere un rapporto molto aperto, e poi loro si abituano e probabilmente si vede che si trovano bene.
I respect him deeply, and I like him personally. He's very. I think he's stern. He's a strong businessman, but he has a very kind side, and he's very, very intelligent. And that's the kind of person I'm happy to work for, and I'm happy to see those characteristics in his two sons as well. The products that Beretta USA have been basically made as American products, made in Maryland, made now in Tennessee. And we're very, very proud of that.
I dated here, I married here, I had 3 children here. And those milestones I shared with those coworkers that I had here.
The only regret I have that even though I was really part of this project, this job, I couldn't have the chance to visit the Beretta USA. That's my only regret.
I'm excited to see where the next generation will take Beretta USA.
The 3 words that I feel characterize Beretta are iconic,
family,
patriotic,
unforgettable.
The success of Beretta USA is really attributable to the vision that Mr. Beretta had. He's the one who convinced his uncle to have a permanent U.S. presence. Against a certain amount of opposition, he pushed for that. He saw the value in it. He's the one who insisted that we succeed, that we would, pursue the M9 contract. He's the one who hired Bob Bonaventure and Carlos Nagy and people who had great talent and great drive and great ability. We could not have succeeded without those people, but we wouldn't have had those people had it not been for Mr. Beretta.
Mi sono fatto qui in America, quindi io ho una mentalità più, anglosassone che latina.
I had a very good relationship with Ugo, and because he was the kind of person he was, a very good guy to work for. You could always count on him. If he said he was going to do something, he did it. I never knew him to alter his schedule. If he said he was going to be here on December 15th, I don't care what happened, he'd be here on December 15th.